Have no fear. Oh.
Anybody want to do a quick libation?
Going for the ancestors now, yeah?
Yeah, we've got to draw on everybody, man. I'm praying.
Give thanks. Give thanks and blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks and blessings.
Thanks and blessings to the Most High. Yes.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
I'm gonna let them in now.
In addition, Lee.
Yeah, let them in.
Let them in. Let them in.
Oh crap! Somebody's.
Let me just start put everything set up.
Are you planning to pin all of the menders to the corner or the top of the screen?
Me personally?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know if you're going to allow us to be distributed, but you know you can pin people.
No, I wasn't planning on.
Okay, doesn't matter, just asking.
Oh, you mean like all of us together?
I'm just going to close the break.
Sometimes you can pin people. It doesn't matter. It's kind of not a big deal. Have the backgrounds, but
as long as everyone who's not doing anything has their video and audio off, then it will you'll be the things that.
Do you have to open
seeing.
all rooms? Just that?
No, that was me by mistake. I'm trying.
Oh, okay.
Do you get that, Lee? You get that? Okay.
Tracy.
Yes.
Just try not to look too surprised at my bit. I just saw your name.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry about that. No worries at all, my darling. Yeah, but so if your camera and mic is off when you're not interacting directly, then hopefully it will just people will just be able to see those people who are directly working at that point.
Okay, I'm going to let everybody in now. Good luck.
They make the rule. It was in April 1981, down in the ghetto of Brixton, that the Babylon them caused such a friction that it bring about a great insurrection. And it spread all over the nation. It was truly an historical occasion. It was event of the year, and I wish I had been there when we run riot all over Brixton, when we mash up plenty police van, when we mash up the wicked one plan, when we mash up the swamp 81, they make the rule of them understand that we not take no more of them oppression. And when me check out the ghetto grapevine, to find out all I could have find. Every rebel just a revel in them story. Them a talk about the power and the glory. Them a talk about the burning and the looting. Them a talk about the smashing and the grabbing. Them a tell me about the vanquish and the victory. Them set a great insurrection. And it spread all over the nation. It was truly an historical occasion. It was event of the year, and I wish I had been there when we run riot all over Brixton, when we mash up plenty police van, when we mash up the wicked one plan, when we mash up the swamp 81, they make the rule of them understand that we not take no more of them oppression. And when me check out the ghetto grapevine, to find out all I could have find. Every rebel just a revel in them story. Them a talk about the power and the glory. Them a talk about the burning and the looting. Them a talk about the smashing and the grabbing. Them a tell me about the vanquish and the victory. Them said the Babylon them went too far. So we had was for born too care. And 1 and 2 innocent get mar. But what? No, so it go sometime in a war in Star. No, so it go sometime in a war. Them say we burn down the judge, we could have burned the landlord. We burn down the judge, we never burn the landlord. When we run riot all over Brixton, when we mash up plenty police van, when we mash up the wicked one plan, when we mash up the swamp 81. Them say we commandeer car and we gather ammunition. We build with barricade and the wicked catch afraid. We send out we scout figure find them we're about. Then we farm up with posse and we make we raid. Well, now them run gang go plan counter action. But the plastic bullet and the water cannon will bring a blam blam, will bring a blam blam. Never mind scar man, will bring a blam blam.
Good evening and welcome to the Mending Room. My name's Tony Seeley. I'm from 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance, and welcome to the Mending Room. So what we've got planned for you tonight is that we will explain a little bit about 81 Acts, and then essentially we will explain the Mending Room, and then we will let loose our wonderful, amazing menders who will share some proposals, some presentations about Brixton, which will all be explained for you in that time. And then after that, we'll try and go into a bit of a Q&A, and we'll round up this evening with some calls to action. Feel free to use the chat. I'll try my best to read out things that are in the chat. Feel free to have your camera on or off as you please. Yeah, I'm sure I don't really need to go into any of the Zoom etiquette. We've all been Zoomed out over the past year, but hopefully you'll have a wonderful evening. If you can't stay for the whole event, we're planning to finish somewhere around 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, the very latest. If you're unable to stay to the very end, you can give us some feedback in the chat. But other than that, we do thank you for your time, and we're gonna begin. So essentially, 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance is a community-led program that has been working in Brixton for the last 4.5 years to build a community program around the issues that led up to the 1981 Brixton uprisings. And we carried out consultations right across the borough in 2017 to many people, artists, residents, activists, community leaders, businesses, community groups, housing associations. And we formed a steering group to try to push forward that process. The first iteration of the steering group was around 300 people. And then moving on subsequently, we distilled that down to 76 people. And then it was distilled down further into what we kind of have been working with in the last sort of 18 months, where we call ourselves a group of builders. And the group of builders have really been reaching out into the community to connect with people to make this program happen. Some of those builders are present on this call here tonight. And 81 Acts is moving into a different phase now, because we were awarded an Arts Council grant early this year to start our year-long program that goes on from April just gone to April next year. And there are many different kinds of activities and events that will be happening throughout the year. One of them was the Mending Room. The Mending Room was an idea that I had coming from my own practice as a theatre practitioner in how to look at objects in a different kind of way. And so I took the idea of this object game and consulted with some peers that helped me influence where the Mending Room is at today. And I want to shout out to a couple of people, particularly Saul Hewish of Ride Out. I want to big up Ali Campbell of Queen Mary University, London. And we've got some amazing, wonderful students that have been riding with us on our journey during the Mending Room, which is a which has been a 10-week process where we have been working with an intergenerational group of social change makers, activists, community development leaders, artists, racial justice activists, youth workers, health and social care background, and also community development backgrounds. These menders have come from different kinds of backgrounds. I also want to mention Lara Samuels, the producer of the Mending Room. So the Menders have been working with me for the last 10 weeks. Every Saturday morning, we kind of get together and we look at the most important issues that are affecting Brixton. And what the Menders have done is they've come up with lots of different themes and issues that are important to them and that matter to them. And we've taken those issues and we've played around with trying to create some provocational objects that will hopefully stimulate a debate about the implications of these issues if they're not dealt with. And so tonight, what we're calling our part 1 of the Mending Room is a chance for you to get a taster of some of the work that the Mending Room have been doing in Brixton. A bigger section of the Mending Room will be happening, we hope, in early July. But for tonight, buckle up, sit tight, grab whatever you need to have beside you, some condiments, and the Mending Room will explain and showcase their own ideas and proposals on how they believe Brixton has its glorious future ahead of itself, and its radical history is never ever going to be forgotten, and that the youth of today can be included in its development. I don't think I'm going to say much more than that, other than I'm going to let it go with the Mending Room to take over and run the show. So that's enough from me, and over to the Mending Room.
Just want to check that I've got, everyone can see that and I've got control.
Yes, you have.
Back.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gordon.
Okay, so we're the first team. Okay, great. Ready to start then?
Just before you start, Gordon, sorry to
Thank-
interrupt you. I've just wondered if it's possible for audiences, i.e. the jury, to turn their cameras off during the presentations. That will give it a greater effect. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Gordon. Go ahead.
No problem. No problem. All right, we're good to go. Okay. Hello all. Welcome to the Mending Room, where we take you on a provocative journey, where we use the vehicle of design fiction and speculative design to stretch our imaginations with the freedom of creative license. In Mending Back Brick, the projects we showcase here today represent the ultimate mend, community-led mending from the grassroots up. Not necessarily different, but definitely better. Not necessarily different to anything you've seen before, but definitely better than anything you've done before. In order to focus our minds, we chose the primary theme of youth and young adults, with the sub and secondary themes of intergeneration and regeneration. We know the community love their young. We remain preoccupied with wanting our youth to do well and challenging the issues that get in the way of that. We are ambitious, We want our future generations to continue our legacy, but do much better. Yet the blight of serious violence and exploitation remains stubbornly persistent. But this has been a local priority for some time now. So what's wrong? Why have you struggled with this? We know Brixton can be a very difficult environment to be raised in for many. Or as the wonderful ecosystem Coal Harbour Consortium identifies it, an adverse community environment, which I know you'll understand massively increases the likelihood of your child being affected by adverse childhood experiences. There are protective factors to adverse childhood experiences. A strong and healthy upbringing helps. And we all know the ingredients of a positive upbringing. It's what you've aimed to emulate with the multitude of interventions and services on offer. And we all know the ingredients of a negative upbringing. It's what you've attempted to replace with the multitude of services and interventions on offer. We are not saying that all children who have a positive upbringing will have successful outcomes, but the likelihood is they will. We are not saying that all children who have a negative upbringing won't have successful outcomes, but the likelihood is they won't. So today, we present to you our offers. The offer from our team is a dream mending pod, a unique, one-of-a-kind prototype designed for youth and young adults subjected to adverse childhood experiences and who do not have access to the necessary protective factors, specifically a strong, safe, and healthy support network or upbringing. We are calling it the Mending Pod. It is a healing pod that supports a healthy, happy, fulfilling, and positive childhood by virtualizing mental, physical, and spiritual reality so as to provide holistic well-being for mind, body, and soul for its users. What's so special about it is that it utilizes the power of artificial intelligence to create the most effective environment specific to the user's needs, providing the right intervention at the right time, at the right level. Through its inputs, it harnesses the extensive legacy of the community and continuously improves by also including the inputs from those who use it as well. Now, allow us to introduce you to someone very special.
This is a story about a young man in his early 20s named Adam, who is currently doing a master's in neuroscience. He's also a successful saxophone player with exemplary A-levels in subjects such as philosophy and history. He had the opportunity to go to the Brit School, a school of notable alumni, including Tom Holland and Adele. However, the story of Adam wasn't always a glamorous one. He faced adversity in his personal life, but being a Black inner city kid, the odds were always against him. We asked Adam what was the secret behind his success. How did he make it out of the ends? We soon found out that actually he had a tricky time growing up. He had pressure and expectations from diaspora parents expecting success from him, but he found a light at the end of the tunnel in his music department at his school. From a very early age of 10, his talent was noticed and he was introduced to Tomorrow's Warriors, an innovative jazz music education and artist development organization. Adam stressed to us that there's an importance that young people need the space to explore and for their talents to be harnessed. And Tomorrow's Warriors did that for Adam. He was given travel opportunities around the world and he was encouraged to explore. No space was made to feel like it wasn't ever his to ventures. He had trips to Oxford University and given access to a lot of events that would enrich and expand his horizon. He had a trope given to him by society that Black boys from South London don't always amount to much, but older Black men showed him that that doesn't always have to be the way. In his words, it was a major force in his life. The story of Adam isn't always the same for my peers. I grew up with a lot of shining young students in school who then, through the trauma they have faced in life, ended up taking a different path. Trauma built from absent parents, living paycheck to paycheck, playing hide and seek with the bailiffs, skipping meals to save money, all whilst trying to seem like everything is going well. It's not often that we get to put a face to the name where I come from. The young men and women that I grew up with, played in playgrounds with, and sat exams with sometimes become statistics. We wear all black far too often, a sign of our mourning. But to some, our friends and family are just numbers on screens, followed by empty and rehearsed scripted apologies. But for us, they're our friends, our neighbors, the people we bump into at supermarkets or bump into at the bus stop. From experience, as someone who shares a similar story, resilience isn't always an easy venture. You get burnout quickly. And as you heard from Adam's story, he had the chance to have inspiration around him and people who he could look up to as role models. He had someone help guide his path and have faith in him, listen to him and nurtured him in order for him to become the adult that he is today. But not all stories are similar to this one. A lot of young people who should have been their role models taken away from them, despite them needing them just as much as the next child, for someone to galvanize them. Not everyone has a tomorrow's warrior, that moment of intervention that helps you shuffle onto the right path when you're at a crossroads, but all young people need a tomorrow's warrior. As a young person, I have always heard that young people are the future. We need to listen to young people. Your generation is so great because you think differently. Wow, you're all tech savvy. But moving up in the world constantly feels like a game of musical chairs, of moving around on edge and thinking about how to be tactical in order to get a seat. Musical chairs, but you don't know the song and you have a limp leg. I often make a joke that I go to therapy because of other people in my life who won't go to therapy. I understand looking at me or anyone who looks like me, someone point fingers and talk about my culture or faith as a reason for refusal, when it's actually those who work for the city who've sworn oaths and signed contracts pledging to protect and serve the people, but have since failed to do that. Black diaspora in our community have long gone unheard. As a Black Muslim woman, I understand what it's like to have things assumed for you and to be stigmatized and marginalized further. To be told, no, you don't have a voice here, let me speak for you. I understand what it's like to be a teenager in this modern world and be berated and told that you won't amount to much. As a group, we wanted to highlight an example of how young people are stigmatized and are built for a world that actually we want to keep them from.
What is wrong with PRU or pupil referral units? A pipeline to prison. Being excluded from school may damage your life. 50,000 young people are excluded in 1 year. This is 1 in every 200 students. 1 in 10 students are moving around in up to 5 different schools and various centres. Each academic year group costs the state £2.1 billion. There are various ways a child moves out of mainstream education: permanent exclusion, a managed move, leaving one school to another, educated off-site a couple of days a week. The risk factors to a young person: you may end up in prison. Half of the young people are immediately unemployed. Many are socially excluded in life as an adult. 1 out of 5 young people will go into a PRU. Boys make up 20% of students to be expelled. Just by identifying recognised mental health issues such as bereavement, potentially from the loss of grandparents or a friend to knife crime, or an absent parent, domestic violence in the home, parental mental health caused by substance abuse and other addictions, being groomed by an older adult, criminally or sexually exploited, witnessing domestic abuse, living in poverty with parents who are not there emotionally, traumatized children can turn into damaged adults. Commonly, children who come from low-income homes have special educational needs or recognise mental health problems. A young person whose family life stems from a challenging background, by assisting them rather than punishing them, the child into being excluded will lead to being socially excluded as an adult. The current system needs to identify and to recognise deep, sometimes hidden trauma by engaging and interacting into the young person's life. Alongside the family and trying to mend the root cause is what's needed, rather than causing more damage to a vulnerable child further down the lifeline. Damaged children can end up destructive, angry as an adult, which is no good for society. Our children are not subnormal humans. Our children will make the next world leaders by going to the root of the problem and mending it. The problems which affect the young person allows the young person to realise their goals, dreams and aspirations is within reach. Treat each child as you wish your own child. I'll start again, sorry. Treat each child as you wish your own child to be treated. Otherwise, the world will result in chaos with another riot or war on our hands. Nurture by providing love, care and attention to a child's positive skills they portray. Find their interests by delving deep into what makes an individual flourish to grow to the best person they can by addressing their interests. As a mentor, working with young people within schools and the community by focusing on what they do well, by thinking outside the academic box, by going to their inner passion, by providing therapeutic ways to reach the young person is immediately required. Mending the family trauma, uplifting the spiritual soul provides a tool for the young person to flourish and grow. I will leave you with this well-known saying by a Greek philosopher, Aristotle. Give me a child until he is 7, I will show you the man.
June, you're on mute, by the way.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Can you hear me now? Yeah. The Mending Pod. We're talking about addressing societal problems, looking towards the future, and creating a specific product. Gordon. And people referral units are what we're talking about. It's speculative designs with real issues. Let's just have a look at what that means. A pupil referral unit is for those who are unable to attend a mainstream school, referred for greater care and support than their school can provide. And let's look at some of the reasons for referral. But let's look at some of those reasons with a 14-year-old child in the home and £1 million in the bank. Does your child have emotional or behavioural difficulties? Are they going to go to the PRU? Experiencing severe bullying, special educational needs or awaiting diagnosis, short-term or long-term illness, pregnant or young mothers. So Michelle and Ilhan talked about the issues of how children become ostracized and end up in the PRU. How did these issues come about and why aren't they going away? We are being a little speculative here. Let's talk about the theory of social change, looking deeper into the family. Circa 1981, poetic license. Riots in Brixton, why? Oh, why? Bring in outside help. Train them. Give them 2K. Let's run a little project. Rinse and repeat. Riots in Brixton, why, oh, why? How about change using local councillors, businesses, creators, mentors, trainers, designers, environmentalists, therapists, engineers. We live here, we know the children, we've given birth to some of the children, we work with them, we see them every day, and we may have some of them in our own family. Let's meet Tracy. Tracy's fictionalized, but some of us will, a lot of us will have known a Tracy. She's off to the proof. Here's why. Family income is low, 0-hour contracts. She's a mixed race young lady of Jamaican and English heritage. She's having trouble with her sexual identity. She lives in a drug environment where dad is thinking of supplementing the income with selling drugs, although he'd rather prefer to go into business with his wife. Tracy also has a secret online friend, Joanna, who's 15, who is also having trouble with her sexual identity, and she'd like to meet up so they can discuss it in private. She's going through puberty at 14. She's got a new baby brother. There's disability in the family, and her grades in physics, maths, and geology are slipping. Luckily for Tracy, she had a teacher that sat down with her at the table and discussed some of the issues. So instead of the proof, she got referral and intervention to the pod. The pod will evaluate the risks for Tracy of isolation, depression, grooming, addictions, suicidal ideations, anger, assault, and potentially prison. There's another reason why Tracy was lucky that she was referred to the pod. A couple of figures for you. Less than 3% of students in alternative provision achieve grades A to C at GCSE. 90% of men in custody aged 15 to 18 have been excluded from school. Say that again. 90% of men in custody aged 15 to 18 have been excluded from school. Our pod is going to recommend these things and a few more. Confidential support with well-being strategies, school intervention to ease Tracy back into her future career plans in biochemistry, monitoring her online safety and creating strategies to avoid her being at risk, a referral to confidential LGBT support groups, and business training and financial startup for parents. Again, we're talking about speculative design, but we have precedents and we have weak signals coming up. We know Alexa, and we know we will hear of Amelia, who's stepping into the picture very soon. Some of you will say it takes time to make changes. Some might disagree. Or maybe some of you have other things on your mind. So do we. More than 440 financial firms have shifted thousands of jobs and 1 trillion of assets out of the UK and into the EU because of Brexit. So we're speculating too, from Prue to Pod. Let's think about the possibility of how a lost generation of UK youth brought 2.3 trillion into the economy. How does that look as a headline for the Financial Times, April 2025? So where does that pipeline lead now? Perhaps it leads to Tracy's happy family with her baby brother. And a happy Tracy. The pod also has a nice little affirmation quote. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. So that instead of repeating those things of the past, We can all sit down at the table together to look at a better future. Thank you.
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the pod works. If we are going to emulate a healthy, happy, fulfilling, and positive childhood, we started with some basics. What do we need? What do we need to include in the pod? We need to move away from empathetic or sympathetic and empathetic relationships and move towards the right of the spectrum, towards compassionate relationships. This is underpinned by cultural expertise and fluency over simple competency and sensitivity. The pod will aim to replicate secure attachment. This is based on attachment theory. This assists children who are dealing with issues of intimacy, anxiety, and requiring positive affirmations, support, and so on. The pod will also replicate intergenerational connectivity. We all know knowledge is power, but many of us don't realize legacy is strength. Location, location, location. Many times young people don't access or won't access or struggle to access the provision that is already out there. So for us, it's important, part of the features of our pod, that it's placed in accessible and meaningful spaces. I'll just touch on a little bit about the technology. Let's get into the features of the pod. Just a few elements in terms of the person to machine interface. The pod operates in 3 modes: a conscious mode, where the young person will be fully aware; a subconscious mode, just below that level; and an unconscious mode, where the person is not aware. So what's some of the tech that we've built in to enable this? We thought it was valuable in terms of providing a virtualized environment to free a user from all of the sensory negativity from their current environment. So imagine having a hand up rather than a hand out. You're lifted off the ground and you're completely free and floating on a buoyant cloud. We also appreciate that, we were using 2 forms of levitation. So either to achieve anti-gravity, the buoyant cloud, and also an electromagnetic force. In order to take advantage of the AI and all the knowledge and history and intelligence built into the machine, we have several forms of thought transference. For those in the conscious mode, we will be using the standard 5 senses. So imagine this to be a bit like a sensory room. As you progress through, say for instance, to the subconscious state, then we'll use techniques like hypnosis. And then even further, telepathy. This is underpinned or supported by the electromagnetic force. So that's just a few of the features. And we can go further into anyone who's interested in taking on our product or getting involved in pushing this design forward. So we have some specific asks. Recognize our knowledge, skills, experience, and expertise. It's not funding that we seek or investment. We're looking for partnerships. We hope to collaboratively develop this idea and many other great ideas as a prototype and place it at the heart of Brixton. And there are many more ideas where that came from, as you'll see from the next team. Secondly, do not waste time to get on board now. Do not wait until the election time next year to start talking with us. We have noted that there are several development activities taking place in the center of Brixton right now. We want to take advantage of that. Thirdly, understand this is not the end. See this as the beginning of the conversation, the start of something new. Hopefully, as Tony said, we'll be having a second session, and we encourage you all to return, this time with your friends and colleagues for the full feature. This was just the appetizer. We do look forward to working with you all. Thank you for listening. And now I'll hand over to the next team.
If I can ask people not to put any comments about that presentation just yet, just hold on to that. There will be a point where you can give your feedback about that presentation immediately after this second presentation. So let's just go straight into the next team to give their presentation, and then you'll be able to give some feedback. And we're going to do that in a specific way. So if I can just ask you to just hesitate, pause, and take in the other presentation from the other team. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'd like to say thank you, fellow Menders. We're totally moved by what you said. What we'd like you, everyone who's in this space, to think about how they would reimagine Brixton. What would they like to see, and what would they like to see done differently? Following on from the fellow Menders, we're going to explore how we would reimagine Brixton. First thing we're going to go through is a mind map of kind of our thought processes of how we got to where we are. And we also included the local community to find out what they thought of Brixton. We asked them, as soon as you say the word, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Community engagement. If the community were going to create things, what would it be? And also referred back to Lambeth Made. What kind of things did Lambeth say they were going to do? Then we explored the Menders rooms, our ideas and our calls to action. So this is kind of given an overview of the plan of this part of the presentation.
Okay, so the mind map of challenges. So here is a snapshot of how we started the project. We explored the general issues of Brixton, and we focused and narrowed it down to the youth. The main themes were law, health, economics, intergeneration, but all of these affect young people in some way. As part of the process, we asked local people in Lambeth what's the first word they thought of when they heard the word Brixton. And these are just some of the answers that we got. Think about the first word that came into your mind.
We wanted to reimagine Brixton, but we wanted to consult the community to find out how they would reimagine Brixton. And this is what we found through our snapshot of talking to people that we knew.
Okay, so from the person that drew this, he wanted things to remain the same, and he wanted to highlight the past, the market, and his Rasta roots. And this was drawn by 16-year-old Michaela, which is titled Golden Roots, which highlights the importance of knowing your roots and your heritage. And this one over here is Peter.
Yeah, so this was also highlighted by a young 20-year-old who wanted Brixton to be, for him, he wanted basketball and an open mic night for the community to build the community and feel more engaged. We consulted with the community, and we know Lambeth has done this as well and created Lambeth Made strategy, dedicated some resources to this. We know Lambeth have ambitions for Brixton. We can help you realise these ambitions of supporting Black, African and Caribbean children.
This is how we reimagine Brixton through our fictional objects. Our first object is a flower, specifically the impala lily, which originates in Africa. The flower is a representation of the youth. When nurtured and cared for properly, it can flourish, becoming the best versions of themselves. And the instructions for use is for it to be able to bloom. The youth and the people who represent them need to be counselled. The golden roots allow long-term stability as long as there's long-term investment of resources. What conditions are set, the flower.
So the sun is our second object, and it represents the commitments, motivations, and actions of all stakeholders and community members. It has the ability to change the mental, educational, physical, and financial outcomes of young Black people in Lambeth and of the community as a whole. For best results, all parties are encouraged to think of every young person they are working with and for as if they were your child when deciding and acting upon strategy. This sun can and will nurture the old and welcome the new, residents, generations, investors, and businesses. The instructions are to create a healthy, inclusive, and vibrant environment for the golden roots of the flower to flourish. It must receive the right resources, such as sufficient sunshine, and we must engage collective actions.
Okay, and for our final item, is represented as a watering can. So water is life and signifies resources. These ideas can aid the creation of a world-class model of an attractive, diverse, and thriving community from a troubled past. The instructions for this would be to fill the can, pouring adequate water to nourish the flower. Apply baby bio when necessary to allow the expansion of green spaces to enhance the flower's mental and physical well-being. When all elements are successfully combined, it will create impact and progress. With collective action, the flowers flourish, the youth flourishes. So what's next? Consultation. Ensure the makeup of people round the table is as wonderfully inclusive as the unique makeup of Brixton. This must be ongoing and sufficiently represented. We, the Menders, want to be part of this round table going forward.
2, collective action. We are here to provide and guide community support services to give more young people, more young Black people in our community, more opportunities. Corporate social responsibility initiatives of investors and businesses, such as those in the proposed Hondo Tower, as well as increased commitments from the council, can contribute in kind, such as dedicated office space for Black-led services and businesses, and in monetary support to community projects.
Resources. One example is raising awareness of the resources available for residents in Lambeth to provide a publicly funded billboard in the centre of Brixton. This would also be used to celebrate our young people's contribution and successes and amplify the opportunities available.
In closing, we want to support the newly elected councillors coming soon, just as we want you to support us. As Brixton led the way in the uprisings across the country in 1981, so Brixton can lead the way as a community model that works for everyone in 2021 and beyond. We invite you to strategise with us further on the next Mending Room Jury event in July. And now we welcome any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the 2 presentations. Now, this is how we're going to give the feedback for the first part. What we'd love you to do as jury audience members is go to the chat and put one word that resonates with you, but don't press enter yet. Put one word on what is resonating with you now, that's come up for you now, since seeing and hearing those presentations. Please do not press enter. Just think of the word that you would like to present and express that's come up for you based on the 2 presentations that you've just been a part of. I'm going to give you a few more seconds, but just don't press enter. Just write the word in the chat, but do not press enter yet. Sometimes good words take a while to come into the brain, and sometimes the words are automatically there. Whilst we're doing that, as you can see, a poll has come up on the screen. You can activate the poll on your own screen by answering some of those questions. But in the meantime, please don't forget to put one single word that resonates with you, what's come up for you, what's impacted on you this evening after hearing those 2 presentations. Don't press enter yet. Make sure you put that word in the chat. And obviously there are some questions in the poll that we'd like you to answer. Okay. What I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to say, I'm going to count you down. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, enter, and then we're going to press enter all together. So here, are we ready? 3, 2, 1, enter. So we're going to take those words and we are going to try to do something with those words. In the meantime, I'd like to open the house for anybody who would love to share any feedback, comments, clarifications, questions about any of the information that you have got since now that you've seen and heard the presentations. We're now opening the floor for comments, critiques, recommendations, suggestions, clarifications. You can write it in the chat.
There's some raised hands.
Or you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself by saying who you are maybe where you're from, and your question. We've got a raised hand from Louisa St. Bartholomew Brown Morgan. Is that right?
Yes, everybody knows me as Nana, Tony. Unfortunately, my darlings, I absconded from London to come and live in Mid Wales because of my asthma, but I miss Brixton. My aunt, when I came to the UK in '74, I lived in Tulse Hill. My auntie lived in Ern Hill. I was there, I came down from Brussels on the night of the Brixton riots. It is the one place I head for when I come down from Wales. And I retrained, I did my drama school upgrade at the Identity School of Acting in Brixton. There is something about Brixton that is unique. You cannot, I don't know, you can't copy that, not even in other places of London. Brixton has that vibrancy. It's African, it's Caribbean, it is the world. Because I've heard white people who have never been to Nigeria, traders who speak Yoruba. That is Brixton for me. It is the hub. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not as bad as I can remember in the 70s when the police were always raiding the nightclubs, looking for drugs and all that. But there is something about Brixton, Lambeth, that is unique. And we should never change that. And we should hang on to that. And our young people should realize that we who are almost hitting our 70s next week have experienced what living in South, I was born in Dulwich, so I'm a South Londoner. I lived in Wandsworth. So Brixton is home, is home. Is where I can go and buy my kenki or my fufu, whatever, you know, I can bake, you name it. But I have seen changes in Brixton. I have seen changes, you know, and it's good. It's good. Okay, I know people think it's gentrified. You know, it's just like Tooting Broadway is now. Yeah, but so what? People still love living there. And like I said in my chat, a white lady actually told me that the blackies look after them, that she would never live anywhere in London but in Brixton. But this was way back, you know, in 1980. So this presentation is good.
Thank you.
And it is from the heart. This is from the heart. Me down here in lovely rural Wales.
Thank you, Nana. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Lara.
Is that me? Like, I couldn't figure out whether or not I'd actually managed to get my hand up because I don't use Zoom. So I was like, can I put it up right now? I guess, yeah, I wanted to share. So I think it's really important, kind of the message that's conveyed today. And I guess I was curious about kind of how much the project is linked in with other community organisations, because I think there's some, so I should say I work for Lambeth Council and I'm part of the early help team, which is trying to kind of support the community in terms of kind of building up from the ground. So essentially we don't want to even exist, we want to disappear because it's not needed. And I'm thinking there's so much good work going on and a lot of organizations kind of championing the same message, and I'm thinking power and strength in numbers. So I was just curious as to kind of how much linking up there is going on.
Well, there's been over the last 4.5 years, we have worked right across the whole of Lambeth with some of the larger cultural organisations like BCA, 19A and Brixton Project, Raw Materials, but also local activists, artists, community leaders, housing associations, the people who what we consider whose voices are often unheard in Lambeth. And so we have a humongous group of people that we consider our partners that we have been working with to build this program of work. And it keeps on changing. So at the moment, we are working as well. We are working with Lambeth Council. Claire Horan has been our link person that's been developing this program with us. So if you want to know more about the range of partners and networks and communities that we're working with, please get in touch and we'll be happy to give you more information about that.
That would be wonderful, because one thing that did spring to mind is I didn't know if you'd actually had any connection to the regeneration and redevelopment department. So I've got a contact there who's very keen to be involved in these sort of initiatives. So if you haven't already, then do get in touch.
Thanks, Laura, appreciate it. Anybody else? Hannah, yes.
Do you mind if I say something before Hannah goes?
Yeah,
yes, go ahead.
In response to Laura Gibson. So of course, I would say, just kind of reiterating what Tony just said, link up. If you've got contacts or you're willing to support the kind of movement, definitely be in touch. You've got Tony as part of 81 Acts. You've also got Lara, who's the producer of the Mending Room. I just wanted to clarify, did you mean specifically in terms of 81 Acts when you said is there linking up going on, or are you talking about basically are people aware of the early help? Because I know that those of us that work in the community, depending on sort of like what people are involved in, some people are involved in youth, will already know about early help, possibly may work with certain members of early help, and things like that. So just to clarify, what specifically did you mean when you said, is there any linking up going on?
So I should say I manage the Brixton, Hill and Clapham team, and I hadn't heard of 81 Acts. I received an invite a few days ago. I wasn't sure how that had come about, and certainly with the community partners that we work with, I hadn't heard of the organisation as well. So I'm thinking, so today, for example, I attended a Youth Ambassadors half-term project. So we've got sort of young voices in the community that are looking to kind of step into strategic spaces and hear their voice. So I guess, yeah, it was more around, I'll hold my hand up and say I hadn't heard of the organisation, but I wondered if equally you'd been able to hear about some of the other stuff that's going on in the community.
Yeah, it is, and it is kind of, just to say, like, I'm quite aware of early help. It is kind of a bit weird how, for us anyway, I would say for me personally, like how Brixton is kind of divided up, because I know you've got the Ferndale, Coal Harbour bit, and then you've got the bit up north that kind of covers parts of Brixton. So it's kind of split out. So we have to talk to everyone. But yeah, okay, all right, fine. I just wanted to understand. So yeah, Henna, I just wanted to dig a bit deeper into Lara's question.
That was absolutely, I'm kind of overwhelmed by your presentations. I think it was absolutely amazing. It's just sends hope, inspiration. I didn't get to put a word up, sorry, I was doing the poll, I was distracted by the poll. But I'm an occupational therapist. I live in Brixton and I've got 2 kids that go to school in Brixton. My son is 10 years old, going on 11. And I'll be honest that I'm worried for my son, for my 10-year-old son, growing up in this area, in the Mitesfield area. You still do see, like, you see a lot of gentrification in the town centre, but then when you get into the little neighbourhoods like Angeltown and Mitesfield and all the little where the estates are and stuff, you see where stuff is like it doesn't match. You know, Brixton is one of those places where you've got the rich and the poor literally side by side next to each other on that same street. You got an estate and then you've got these nice big houses. It's mad. South London is mad. And then I see like I'm studying to be an occupational therapist, and that has opened up a whole new world for me, like being a therapist on placement. And I'm seeing also the nurses are melanated, but the therapists are all middle class, most of them like middle class people who come from a different walks of life. They don't even live in London. You know, in January, I did a placement in CAMS, Children and Adolescents Mental Health Service in Slam, based in Maudsley. And I didn't find any cultural competence in the staff that worked with our kids. I feel like there's a lot of work that needs to be done in just so many different areas, because I'm just in so many different areas. But yeah, and then but you mentioned the pupil referral unit and they're coming directly out of school. But then what about the young people who have been through that route already and they're 17 and on the block and, you know, doing what they're doing and not having any prospects to feel like they want to go college? They've been kind of like, in a way, feeling like they've been left behind. They can't even go into the high street and feel like part of anything, because that's where all those arches opposite Argos. What happened? I see seafood place. Who wants to eat seafood like that, please? Do you know what I mean? Like, what about that jerk chicken place or something? Didn't that get closed down and called up? I'm seeing changes around me that it's okay, very well, very nice. But I don't see nothing for the people, for the community, because when you go down to the block, I see a community centre. Oh yes, COVID was a massive disruption. And I'm seeing it as a kind of blessing, because now we can try and pick up and we can all come together with you guys and your amazing work and your amazing words and the amazing things that you guys have done, being as mentors and going to that other person that is like your age or younger and saying, look, we need to go into schools and do these talks. My son is he was selected, one of the few in BLAM, Black Learning Mental Health Achievement Mental Health. Now, BLAM, why are there selected few of melanated children in that school being part of this workshop where they are trying to aspire and teach children of the real African heritage? What happened to the African and Caribbean education that should be in the curriculum? Like, there's so much things that I'm mentioning so many things. I'm just making it up as I go along because I'm so inspired. I've got a son and he's growing up and it makes me nervous and I'm trying my best, but community is what it is. I go to Michelle's boxercise class, so that's how I know about this event here. And I'm so glad, Michelle, that you invited me. Like, she's like my mentor and my sister, and I love you, Michelle, for helping me be part of this and helping me to use my voice in all these little things that I think, like, I've got all these ideas like hotspots. Maybe we should have hotspot areas where they're not like in the inner Brixton, but kind of like, you know, in the little neighborhoods that we have in Brixton. You know, let's bring that up again. Let's get these projects going up again and try and get into what they want. Some of them are doing music and they're very good, but music is not just the only thing. They probably got more things. There's raw materials there, but some of them don't even feel like they have access to those places. So yeah, I've done talking, I think, but it's a lot. But I'm so proud of all of us in this little Zoom, and I think we're amazing. So
can I say something? Can I just say something quickly? I just want to say that I think that's what the community needs. We need to have places in which to meet and congregate and get stronger, you know, to have our voices amplified so we can work on the things that we want for ourselves. And we haven't got that. We need spaces. We need space in which to pray, talk, laugh, strategize. That's what we need, and we haven't got that. That's been taken away by us losing our community centres, by us losing our churches, by us losing so much. And that's what the government did. They took away our voices by taking away our spaces.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Hannah. I'm just going to read a couple of things in the chat because they will disappear after a while if I don't read them out. There's a message from Ayla. The point about regeneration is changing the face of Brixton and Southeast and East London, plus other areas like Wembley and residential areas and residential diverse areas. So it is in the night time attracting others in outer areas. During the day, the markets, but now it's catering from the new clients. Message from Saul, love the pod. It reminded me of Tamagotchi. So I wondered whether it was something that all young people would have as an object that tailors itself to their individual needs, or is it a place or places that you can go to and feel free of gravity, like, for example, a flotation tank? I think the focus on breaking the through to prison pipeline is crucial. If you want to stay in the loop with 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance, our website is in the chat and our email is also in the chat. Please stay in touch. You can sign up to our newsletter and we'll be letting you know about every single act of defiance that is going to be happening this year and next year, rolling up to April 2022. Please keep in touch with us by signing up to our newsletter on the website. A couple of more messages here. One from Pauline: combining the high-tech pod with face-to-face relational business and creative work is inspired. One from Ali Campbell here: I thought there was great wisdom in using ACE, Arts Council of England, as part of the thinking behind the pod.
Adverse childhood experiences.
I'll say ACE.
Okay.
Thank you, Gordon. Lara, direct connect with 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance. Email is there in the chat if you want to get in touch with us. Another message from Aya: well done, presenters. Gordon, very mature presentation. Vibrant energy. And what else do we have? We have from Lara, be part of the conversation, drop a line to 81 Acts, put in the subject line, the mending room, and email 81acts@exuberantdefiance.com. From Pauline, cultural competence is so important, as is encouraging white professionals to be humble and courageous, and to make space for this seeding, nurturing, and growth. The community has the answers and the ingenuity. Of course, that's not new to you. Louisa says that Brixton is unique is an understatement. To say Brixton is unique is an understatement, but I'm worried about the backlash that will take place in 15 years' time when Brixton will become unaffordable for lower income families whose families have lived in the area for over 80 years. We're experiencing the problems here in Wales, where locals have been pushed out. I want to change my word to love, says Ali. A heart from Nasha. Pauline also says, I also want to add joy. Good idea. And pod hotspot. Maybe the new buzzword going around tomorrow in Brixton. Pod hotspots. Remember where you heard it first. We need spaces to grow, says Lara. Louisa from Louisa says, we need African Caribbean teachers to go into schools to teach children that each and every one of them have an identity and culture to be proud of. Shame I couldn't come to London as often as I could. I did pre-COVID. Again, it's also about justice in every sense of the word, to do with racism and discrimination because of the inequalities. Spaces to be and feel safe, says Aya. And Sis Marcus says, is Marcus Lipton gone as well? No, it's not gone. It will be a reopening soon as things can settle down. It's definitely not gone. Ira is recovering and he will be back in action as soon as possible. We put the website address in there. I'm just reading off the raining texts, our messages. Louisa says, just like Brixton, Balham, Clapham Junction, Two Inn, all have becoming so gentrified. It's as if the others never lived here. And then Michelle says, thank you all for coming. Peace, love, and unity. So now what we're going to do, we're going to share with you the words that you put in the chat. All of those words, we've kind of put them into our Brixton Dutch pot, and we put them up, and here's the results of those words that you put in the chat. As you know, with word clouds, the way word clouds work is the most used or popular words get the bigger attention. So
when you finish with that, Tony, can I also pick up on a few questions as well?
sure. So we've got words like new generation, support, collaboration, intergenerational, consultation, self-sufficiency, love, interesting, energy, interesting energy, energizing, hope, love it all, connection, daring, inspiring, education, rinse, brilliant, important. And I can't read the other two yellow words. Maybe someone can shout them out because my eyes are not so good with those yellow words.
Important.
To the right hand side. No, the ones that are to the right hand side and smaller.
Accountability. I can see one says accountability.
There's one at 3 o'clock. I can't read that one.
The one to the very right, I can't see that one.
I think it might say cultural, but I'm having to really squeeze my eyes and look at it.
Okay, no
The
problem.
horizontal one, I think, says accountability.
Gordon.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to some of the earlier comments as well. We've got Pauline Rutter, who said, how do you want to collaborate? She's also said, I work in and write about the arts and cultural sector and knowledge exchange that supports growth and well-being and is linked to education, research, policy, and transformation. So I guess connect with the emails in the chat. Is that the right thing to say? Yeah, how to collaborate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, connect with the contacts. You've addressed that already. And then who else? Oh, there was one from, yeah, I think that's it actually. Pauline. Oh, and Isla. I'm a writer and writing about community spirit. So is engaging about these creative aspects. So Isla's a writer, Pauline's a writer.
So for anybody out there who wants to connect with 81 Acts of Exuberant Defiance, if you would like to make an act or even know what an act is, or what an act could be, all of the information is on our website. You go to our website and there is an expression of interest form where you can download and you can fill that in, and we will facilitate the process of bringing your act to life, providing that it fits in with the criteria that we've outlined on our website. So we're happy to support any act of development through the expression of interest form, which can be found on our website, and we can connect you up with our networks and partners to bring your idea to life. So tonight, really, the Mending Room, made some proposals, suggestions around how they see the future of Brixton, how they reimagine Brixton to be, and essentially what we're basically saying, and the Menders can speak on their own behalf, but they want to be part of the future planning of Brixton. Any future planning, any future development that is going ahead currently in Brixton or will be going ahead in the future, the Mending Room want to be part of that. They want to be around that table. They want to be in those spaces or places where those conversations are going down. because we know in the past there's been many mistakes that borough councils and developers have made in the past, and those mistakes have been huge impacts on communities. And what the Mending Room is basically saying, we don't want any more future mistakes for Brixton. We want to be part of those conversations so that we can ensure that the future of Brixton is the best it can be. That's essentially what the Mending Room is saying, particularly to those stakeholders and obviously council people, particularly elected councillors. As we know, there's a new team of elected officials. There's been a reshuffle within Lambeth Council, I think yesterday or today or even tomorrow. So there is going to be a new team of elected people running Lambeth Council, and the elections, local elections, that's all happening. But the Mending Room, we want in. We want to be part of those conversations that are going to be happening in the future, in order so that less mistakes can be made from a community point of view. I'm going to hand it over to any of the Menders who want to share their final concerns, their comments, their feedback about what they are asking you, who are still here on this call, what their intentions are. Any Menders?
I'll say something quickly. I know Lara's got a hand up, but I don't want to miss off people who are asking specific questions about our products. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to speak to Saul and Pauline, who asked some specific stuff. I think obviously you can appreciate that, as has been made, sort of like the point has been drawn a few times, that this is all fictional. But our ideas are very much based in a sort of sense of reality. And we're, it's a creative opportunity to explore, how these products are affected and relate to reality. So in terms of the pod specifically, we've imagined it as a prototype, and definitely it's very tailored. This is important because that's what you get. If you think about the idea of Adam, he had his own support, like his family, community, friends, all that kind of stuff that was very tailored to his needs. And that's important. This whole idea of one size fits all system doesn't work. We know that. So tailoring to the needs of the individual user was a core feature of the pod. And in terms of places where it is and where it can be, we could start off with one pod, put it somewhere like really prominent. But ultimately, I think if you think about the whole concept of the PRU, wouldn't it be nice if there was a pod in every PRU? But maybe if we do have time, you'd like to talk a little bit about how it reminds you of the Tamagotchi, because I didn't quite understand that. And in terms of like to Pauline's statement about combining the high-tech pod with face-to-face relational, actually, I would say that the pod, and I would really encourage other team members and from the whole Mending Room to comment on their own thoughts, because we all kind of did this stuff together, and then we sort of like broke off in teams and developed a little bit more detail. But really, these are all of our ideas. These are shared ideas. The pod is a metaphor, if you like. So think of it as a metaphor. The technology is there, but the reality is that's what works. It's the real life, the face-to-face. As June pointed out, utilizing all the skill sets within the community to intervene, business-wise, creative-wise, community-wise, family-wise, school-wise, statutory body-wise. It's really like utilizing that. So the whole technology thing, it's a bit far-fetched, but it's think of it as a metaphor, really, I think. Yeah. That's all I wanted to say.
I'd like to say something. Thanks, Gordon. I think in terms of the Mending pod, we feel it's really important that in the education system that was mentioned earlier about history, about how amazing our history is put into schools from a young age to young people who are Black to know that they are amazing. And I don't think that's done enough. We're told about slavery all day long. We need to be talking about the kings and queens. We need to be talking about Black people in a more positive way from school, to embed that into their heads so that they can believe that they are amazing. And that comes from a very young age. We talked also about intergenerational and the importance of elders mentoring youngsters and actually guiding them through their lives. We all talk about it takes a village to raise a child, and that's really important. I've noticed over the last few years that if you see young people in the street having a fight or having an argument, some people won't step in to help anymore. That was never the case years and years ago, and we need to kind of step in a bit more, I feel, as elders with youngsters. And in terms of regeneration, I actually believe regeneration is a very good thing, so long as it's equal, so long as Black people or anybody of colour is sitting around the table making decisions about where they live, how they live, rather than being dictated to by somebody or some bodies who don't even live in the area. As Hina said earlier, it's important that we have our voices heard and we're not begging for it, that we actually demand it. And I'm sure everyone feels the same way. We need to be represented where the decision makers are, rather than being asked if we can sit around the round table and have a discussion. We need to have that discussion. So our call to action, as Tony said earlier, is that we're not asking, the call to action is we want to have our rights, have our voice amplified in our community so that our young people can be the next leaders, people like Lee, people like Ilhan, our youngsters can be making the decisions about Hondo Towers. It's great to have Hondo Tower, but make sure that the people of colour who live in the area get a look in and play a role in where they live and be proud of it. I mean, that's the problem with gentrification. Gentrification is, if you have a group of people who live from Angel Town Estate coming to be outside the Hondo Tower and then they're moved along because they're seen as being antisociable, then they're not fitting in to where they live, and they should have a right to be outside the Hondo Tower. They should be a right to be on the 34th floor of the Hondo Tower and have a whole floor for themselves if they want to. And I'm getting very political, so I'll shut up now.
Thanks, Michelle. There's been a couple of more messages in the chat. A couple of them there, Gordon, one from Nina, and obviously Saul's replied back to you, so you maybe can read those out. I'm just going to read out some others here. Natasha says, thank you to all the speakers. It's been a great event to attend, fantastic ideas and inspiration, much food for thought and action. And they have to go now. Thank you very much. Ali says, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. How true is that? And Louisa says, thank you for letting me part of this conversation. It gives me such great pleasure to see the young ones continuing the work that was started long time ago, but stalled because of discriminatory, racist government policies, including the lack of financial investments and incentives in the community, even under Labour. I'm afraid to say same issues in the Elephant and Castle, Lewisham areas and other places, as we know, but change is never too late. I have to say, our website name is 81actsofexuberantdefiance.com, says Lara. Must have to repeat that. Remember, 81actsofexuberantdefiance.com. The message is in the chat. So thank you. Gordon.
Yeah, Lara's still got her hands up. Yeah, so I want to say absolutely, Nina. When we were designing the products, we were from both teams, not just the pod, also with the flower and the watering can and the sun, we were very much thinking about how those principles that we use to design them, and this is why I spoke about the metaphor, can be embedded in real life. We are all practitioners ourselves. We're all on the ground in the community. So we're not ignorant to how services work and how services can be delivered. So we're very much, and we've been blessed, I think, to be carried through this creative process by Tony, and to think about how that ties in with practice, and to, as I said, free your mind to think expansively. But I would really also encourage you guys to, so I think we were lucky in terms of we made some very intentional, specific features in the pod so that it was very visible, but also don't sleep on the flowers. The metaphors in the other teams, I think was big time. You know, I mean, they should speak on it, but I just want to say my piece is that it was a very systemic kit. You know, the three elements all working together. And I remember, like, during the times when we were talking about it in the sort of practice sessions, development and rehearsal sessions, they were talking about the soil and how the soil is important for the flower and all those kind of things. And so you've got that whole kind of idea of, somebody mentioned the village to raise a child, but you also got the environment, you've got the people, you've got the resources, everything working in tandem to create the sort of right circumstances. So everything based in reality. We've used creative license, but we haven't gone that crazy. Like it's all relevant. Yeah, that's all I can see, but definitely anyone that wants to take these things forward with the Mending Room, get in touch.
Yes, get in touch, and our website address is 81actsofexuberantdefiance.com.
Oh.
And our email address is connect@81acts.
Can I just say one more thing, Tony, just before I be quiet and let other people talk? Ali Campbell, this brother's got some big lines. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Absolutely, and we've all heard that somewhere before, if most of you have, and that menu is getting bigger and bigger. So don't end up on the menu, end up around the table. Tonight has been the opportunity for the Menders to not only come up with proposals around how they see and reimagine Brixton, but it's also been a chance for them to make connections, and it's been a healing space also for some of them to connect and have some togetherness and build some strong bonds over the 10 weeks. The Menders have come together and shared many different things that have brought them to this stage. I wonder whether they are able to just share a little bit of that process to the wider community, just to know what you were actually doing. Apart from making and inventing and creating, what were you doing in those Mending rooms every Saturday morning? I'm sure some of the people on this call would love to know. Lee's got his hand up. Let's hear from Lee, a young man in the Mending room.
So first, I'd like to say hello to everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining in, and I'd also like to say a massive thank you to everyone on this team. That both teams, because I started off this and I didn't know anyone from the call, and being able to meet everyone every week. We did warm-ups. We spoke about how our week's going. We worked together to work on projects, just the different ideas that we had. Even when we were thinking about the speculative design, our ideas were so similar. I mean, even with the pod idea, I mean, it's the same thing with the soil, with the sun, with the watering can. It's the same thing. If the youth doesn't receive what they need, then it's going to go down a path which isn't successful, which goes down the stereotypical route of drugs, you know, the prison line system and all of that stuff. But this experience has also given me the opportunity to work with people from all age groups. I mean, we've worked with people even from the I'm thinking of the university name. I can't specifically tell you.
Queen Mary University.
Yeah, St Mary, is it University or
Queen Mary University London?
Queen Mary University. So they've also added points as well to our ideas too, and to be able to work with people from all different age rates, I think it's been fantastic, and being able to work with all of you has been great. So thank you.
I love Tony's music. Tony plays some badass music the first thing in the morning and has the best, you know, he's definitely, I think in his life before, he was definitely an MC in a sound system for sure. And that's been amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that we're all different ages, we come from different places, but we all feel and think quite similar. That's been amazing. There has been some frustration, obviously. With every group you work with, there has been some frustration, but we've all pulled together as a great team because we've all had so much passion, and that showed today. I'm really proud to be part, and I've always wanted to work with Tony Seeley, so I've had the pleasure of working with him. So thank you.
I'd like to say I actually started my journey in community work and youth work about 15 years ago. And I don't know if Tony remembers, but the workshops where I was going to learn about how to look after children, how to approach facilitating workshops was with Tony 15 years ago. So for me, this project has really come full circle. And I feel honoured to be part of the Mending Room and to meet all these wonderful people that are on the team as well to work with. It's been a great experience, and I really hope the impact that we want to have will be carried on, and that we will be invited to that roundtable, because we have a lot of diverse experience and energy and ideas that can really help the things that are set out in the Lambeth Made strategy. We can bring them to life. We're done talking about them. We want the action. We want to protect our young people and our communities, nurture our heritage, and live in peace and prosperity. And so I really hope we will be invited to those talks. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining as well this evening.
I think I just want to add, it's been an amazing experience, and it's just having the space to be as creative as you want to be, and having people have just a wide range of knowledge. And at the end, we build something bigger and greater than we thought we could. And it was just an amazing experience, and just listening to the stories that people had and what's going on, because sometimes you just see one view from your community that's very specific, and it just opened things up to me. So it was absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to be a better practitioner because of the experience I've had in this space. So thank you, everybody. Definitely.
Any other final comments from the Menders that they want to share with the jury?
Tony, do you want to say anything to? I remember Miss Isis came to the first session, didn't she? Miss Isis, from West London. Do you want to say anything about the expanding the program? She's saying
I do. Let me just kind of catch up with the messages. I hate leaving the messages unattended, so I'm just going to quickly pick up where I left off. It's been a wonderful opportunity to visualize and hear aspirations and views. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa Marie, says Nasha. One last word, please don't let them destroy the spirit of Brixton. Keep up the work you're all doing so that the next generation will carry on with the work. Yes, thank you, Elena. Good event. Positive words to build Brixton for a better future for our young people. More strength to all, from Elena. Sister Isis from West London says, excellent work, so relevant to other communities facing the same issues across the country. Gentrification, the oppression of privilege, disenfranchisement, exclusion, etc., etc. Certainly completely relevant to our experiences in North Kensington, where institutional racism, systemic discrimination, and profit at the expense of people ultimately led to the Grenfell fire atrocity and the loss of at least 72 members of our community. I look forward to 81 Acts sharing their learning with us. And if there are anybody on the 81 Acts would love to share that with me, please let me know. Lara says, so many amazing ideas, so fantastic to be part of this space. Thanks so much for the discussion. Sorry, but I need to leave now, says Lara. Gibson. Pauline said it's been a great meeting. Well done to the presenters and the organizers, hosts, and everyone who attended. Hope to all see you soon. So we're kind of wrapping up things here. I'd like to just say on behalf of the Menders, it's been an amazing opportunity to give you this appetizer, this first taste of what we are proposing for Brixton. The main part of our proposals will come in our second event that will be happening in early July. And at that event, we will come with the full course, the full main course. But at the moment, we've just given you enough to whet your beaks in terms of an appetizer. And we hope that you stay in touch with us and connect with us so that we can take you on this journey that we are entering. But I don't have anything else to say that other than I love all of these Menders. They are absolutely diamonds, and I couldn't have done this project without them. They are just such amazing change makers who are just pushing the waves. I love it, I love it, I love it. So thank you so much. That's pretty done for me. If anybody else wants to say anything, please speak now. Forever hold your tongue. Open your mic if you haven't spoken. Now is your chance.
Can I speak just to say, please, well done, everybody. Looks fantastic. You have great. And also, anybody wants to connect with the Mending Room, please go to 81actsofexuberantdefiance.com and check out what's going on their website. And also, you can send an email to connect at 81actsofexuberantdefiance.com. Please connect.
Who are you? Who's that voice? I wonder who that is.
Oh, and it's Lara Samuels, the producer. Fantastic work, people.
Well done. So let's find something. Gosh, anything? Final comments?
Give us a tune, Tony. Give us one of
Give us a tune. Drop us a tune. Drop us a lick.
Gosh,
Tony,
pressure.
I'm going to love and leave you guys.
Oh.
Okay.
I have a call time at 7. So I have to leave home at 4:30 in the morning to Port Talbot. Well, this is the life I chose.
Thank you so much, Nana. Appreciate it.
It's always great connecting with my people, especially when you're the only Black woman living in an area of 3,000 people. So it's always great to connect because I am an African, but I am also a daughter of the world, a daughter of the earth. We were here before. We are all children of Abraham, lest we forget. Our histories go back long, long time ago. I'm good at history and I can teach history, but we go back to Abraham's housemaid. That is where we start. We are all children of the earth, and no one should deny us that. No one should tell us, go back to the jungle where you came from, because we are all from the jungle. and Africans, Black people were more civilized while these people were running about in loincloths. We were inventors, we were musicians, but they've chosen to forget it. We should not let them forget it. Never. We are strong, united, we are strong. Divided, we are not. And we should not let them try to divide Black people, whether you're from Jamaica, Barbados, Nigeria, South Africa. We are one. We are one. One human race. We are one. And we should never forget that, because we all share the same culture. Even if you go to Brazil, for example, they think of themselves as Africans, and they have maintained the African culture, the Yoruba culture in Brazil. So we here should never let these people try to divide us. Never. Not even if our Black people, like those idiots who say that Britain is not racist. That's their problem. But we know, those of us who have experienced racism, we know. Let the Black fools who think that Britain is not a racist country, they have never experienced it, because their children will one day experience it. And then they will say, Mommy and Daddy, I thought you said this is not a racist country. But there we are.
Thank you so much, Nana. God bless you. Thank you for your comments and thanks for sharing. Safe travel.
Okay. God bless. I'm off to eat now and off to bed.
Okay.
God bless you all. See you again.
See
Bye.
you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So we're just gonna close down tonight's mending room with a track all the way back to 1981. Good night from the mending room.
What would life be without the
Everyone going home now? But still off, the drinks still off.
Next tune, man. Next another
Still off. Everything's still off. Look, everything's done. Go home. Everything's still done.
Let's go, man. Let's go to the club.
Goes on and on and on at the club. The eye them a rock and go down at the club. What would life be without the club? How could we live without the love? The female, the cupids you found to rub. Say how could we live without the club? The club. At the club. Yes, at the club.
Wow, that's it, I'm afraid. Time to go home now, come on.
You keep putting on tunes though, we ain't going.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
White, black, brown, red, yellow. Doesn't make any difference what color you are. The only thing power respects is power. They take one little word out of what you say, ignore all the rest, and then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually are.
Much of what I say might sound like it's stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. 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 It's the
We don't care who likes it or not, as long as we know it's the truth. No, we need either this or that. This or that. If you're wrong, you're wrong, and if you're right, you're right. There'll be no skullduggery, no flim flam. No compromise, no sellout, no control show.
Malcolm X.
No sellout,
Malcolm X.
no sellout,
Malcolm X.
no sellout,
Malcolm X.
no sellout. You can't deny that. You may not like my singing, but you can't deny it. If you're afraid to tell the truth, why you don't even deserve freedom.
You can't say that you're not going to have an explosion and you leave the condition. And as long as those ingredients, explosive ingredients, remain, then you're going to have the potential for explosion on your hands. Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Thank you very much. Good night. God bless. See you all again sometime soon. Stay safe and well. Bye-bye, people.